The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Pat Scott. Hi, Pat.
Hello there.
And Father Andrew Kinstetter. Hi, Father Andrew.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah, The Secrets of Technology is recorded before a live studio audience. I say that because Father Andrew has his parents there with him, and we want to say hello to Janet and Dawn for joining us there with Father Andrew. First, I want to start off with some feedback that we got on our last episode 102, where we talked about it's been a year since a lot of churches started doing live streaming of Mass and that whole thing. And we were talking about what lessons we've learned and what we might look forward to in the future. And there was some feedback. Actually, the feedback that I got is on a headline. That's right, on one of the headlines about the Apple is getting the hands-free directions that you can give it voice commands, the Apple Maps. And I think I made it seem like that Waze did not have voice commands. But Mark Alves, friend of mine on Facebook, pointed out that the Waze does have a hands-free option that you can download and enable. So he sent me a link. I'll put that in the show notes if you want to find that out. So Waze does do voice commands, so you can be hands-free with it. Because in a lot of places, like in Massachusetts where I am, you can't touch your phone while you're driving, which is kind of... so you have to keep the phone down low in your lap, right? No. All right. But thank you, Mark, for that feedback. I really appreciate that. So our first segment, our main topic today is the three of us are now Oculus Quest 2, right? Everyone's got an Oculus Quest 2, I'm pretty sure.
I've got the first generation.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. But
can we call us Questers?
We are Questers. We are Questers. Oculus Questers, the VR headset. It's a standalone VR headset from Oculus, which is owned by Facebook, which I think is something that's important to know. For some people have concerns about Facebook, and some people don't want to have a Facebook account. And that's one of the things that you have to know about the Oculus headset is you have to have a Facebook account. So that's key. But we wanted to talk about our experiences, some things that we've learned about using Oculus, some tips, hints, some picks, some suggestions of things you can use if you're interested, or if you have one. These are things that you might want to know about as well. I was tempted to actually try to record this in a VR space where we all have our headsets on, but that would have been a disaster as I'm trying to manipulate the keyboard and the recording with the headset on and all that. So
we might play with that sometime, just separately.
We could try to do that sometime. Yes, that would be fun. Yeah, we have a ton of things we want to suggest to you, but first I just want to kind of get your Father. You picked the Quest as your pick of the week not long ago, and what is it you like about for someone who doesn't have a VR headset? What is it about the VR headset that you enjoy that really that maybe somebody might not realize about having a headset? Anything?
Oh, absolutely. The first point is it's better than you think it's going to be.
I agree.
There's you might have been to a place where you have to like sit in a swivel chair and you put on this VR headset and you can only kind of look around and that's cool, but it's also not fully immersive. And so what I like about the Oculus Quest is that it's not tied to an actual computer, which some of the other systems are. So this is a completely wireless system, and you have free range of motion, and it is immersive from the moment that you boot it up and kind of go to your virtual living room in the mountains to the games or to whatever that you're doing. And so I was looking into it specifically because, as you all know, I'm a Star Wars fanatic.
Yes.
And so they had released Star Wars Vader Immortal, and it would have been right when well over a year ago now. I don't exactly remember when they first started coming out, but I got it because I wanted to experience that. And to say it was mind-blowing how advanced the technology is an understatement. I mean, it was so realistic, and I mean it captures every motion that you do. If you kneel down, I mean, your perspective shifts. And when Darth Vader approaches you in that game, and he's well over 6'7", 6'8", you know, like, I'm looking up to him in this VR headset, and he is intimidating.
Let me tell you, the first time I played Vader Immortal, and you're standing, the first time you meet Vader, you're standing in a cell waiting for him, and the door is open.
Yes.
And he comes into the hallway, and he approaches you. I was 10 years old again, and my heart started beating, and I was kind of like, wow, this is really intense. And
it's so different than, like, if you're playing it on an Xbox or, you know, something, a PC game, because that there's a separation there. You know, you've got
flatness.
You've got the computer screen or the TV screen. This makes you feel like you are physically there. So it is, it is just amazing, the technology. And of course it can do so much more than games, but I got it primarily for the Star Wars and Doctor Who stuff. And again, just, if you've ever wondered about VR and you know someone who has it, go ahead and you should totally go and try it. But, you know, if you've been skeptical on the technology, it's amazing.
I do want to add one thing, like concerning the Star Wars thing. Disney and Lucasfilm are leaving money on the table by not having a Jedi Lightsaber Academy app for this. Like, we'll talk in a bit about an app called Supernatural and Beat Saber, where there's sort of simulated lightsabers. But, like, there should totally be a lightsaber, like you are a Jedi Padawan in a training facility at the temple, learning how to use your lightsaber. Totally.
Yeah, there's a version of that.
There's a little intro in the game that you get to play with that for a little bit, just so you know how to swing and all that. But it's not like what you're talking about.
It's not you're not a Padawan at the temple, but
they're leaving money on the table. I'm just saying, that money is sitting here on my desk waiting for Disney to put that on.
You've got it already budgeted.
Exactly. That money is spent. Pat, what about you? I think you have an interesting perspective, because you know some folks who they don't seem like, they're not like 25-year-old gamers with headsets, but the folks you work with, I was trying to be nice, that you work, who sometimes have mobility issues, but this kind of gives them some freedom of movement, in a sense, out into the world, especially in the past year.
Right. In fact, I had one of my clients, I was telling her about this, and her daughter is in a wheelchair. She's had a stroke. Her biggest problem would be she's got use of one hand, not the other. So for the controller, she'd have to find things that she could do with one hand and not be moving, but be in the stationary mode. And one of the lovely things about the Quest is you can either have it in a room mode, where you've got a whole room, 5x5, 6x6, 7x7, whatever. Or you can say, I want to put it in stationary mode. And you can sit in a chair for many, many, many of the activities. Now, Beat Saber, no, I'm not going to sit in a chair to do Beat Saber. But on the other hand, I do that for a lot of things that I am going traveling or that type of thing. And I was going to say, the reason I got my Quest was I needed a challenge. It was COVID. And I said, let me think about what I could do that I haven't tried before. And I knew Father had talked about his Quest, and I thought, that sounds interesting. So I got the Go, which was the baby Quest. And it has sit in a chair and swivel, but it doesn't have the get up and walk around, although you can teleport places. So then I decided to get the Quest based upon what I had seen in the Go, and it was so much more magnificent than the Go was. My primary things: exercise, travel, games, and social. Those are the four things I want from my experience with the Quest, and it's got them all.
So let's get into some of our tips for this. Well, I got one tip that I kind of discovered on my own, and I'll start off with it, because a lot of this stuff is the stuff that Pat and Father you got because you have more experience. I've only had a Quest for about a month, but one thing I discovered early on was my kids love to they want to see what I'm doing. They love to watch me play games, video games, and I got the headset on, they can't see. Well, one of the things you can do is you can cast from what you're seeing in your headset to your phone, because there's an Oculus app for your phone. But they can't all gather around my phone. I got 5 kids. They'd be killing each other if they were trying to all stare at the phone at once. I can't see. So what I realized though is I can mirror my iPhone to my Apple TV on my big TV screen. So when I want to do that, what I do is I go into the Oculus app, I start casting, or actually I can do it before. Actually, it's better if you do it before. I go into the control center. That's the swipe down from the top right, and I hit the AirPlay button, and I do screen mirroring to my Apple TV. Then I go into the Oculus app and turn on casting, and then I put the phone. I put it like even sideways on the charger. I have the Qi charger. I put it on there, but it stays in horizontal mode on the TV, which is good. It doesn't rotate. That would be annoying. And then the kids can watch. There's a slight delay, but not a huge one. Another tip is make sure you turn down the volume on your phone, because you'll get an echo, and it'll be like a slight delay. It'll be really annoying. But that way other people can enjoy and watch you as you're doing your game. So they loved the Vader Immortal, watching me do that. And I have to do the episode 2 still, because I've only done episode 1 of that.
Yeah, I just finished 1 myself. I just now did it. So.
Episode 3 is the best.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, cool. So.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So that's my tip. So Pat, what do you have to offer? What do you want to offer as a tip or idea for folks?
Well, as I say, I'm 75 years old. I have never exercised. I decided that I wanted to do something, and I saw something on Facebook, I think it was, about supernatural. Now, the name doesn't do much for me. I would rather they called it something else, but that's okay. So I looked at it, and they had a free month's trial, and I said, okay, can't hurt. And I found myself enjoying it so much, and I've never enjoyed exercise, that I was spending 30 minutes to an hour every day, with occasionally a day here or off, or that type of thing. And I'm thinking, I'm getting good heart rate, because your Apple Watch can track that. I'm getting movement all over my body, and I'm having fun. And it's almost, I won't say addictive, but it's so much fun that you say, oh, that was hard. Okay, it's time to stop, but that was fun.
Yeah.
And I've never felt that way about any exercise. So I felt like this was something for my health, that I could do any time of day or night. I didn't have to wait for a sunny day. I didn't have to wait for a time at the gym. I didn't have to drive anywhere. So that was my biggest thing why I started using it, after I just wanted to try it.
I started using Supernatural about a week and a half ago, and every day, 6:30 in the morning, I get up and I do it. I used to get up and go for a walk. I don't walk in the winter a lot of times, just because it's so cold and there's no sidewalks to walk on around here. It's all snowy and stuff. And I've been getting up and going. And so I think I should explain how Supernatural works. You're in different environments, Iceland, Tahiti, on top of a
Galapagos.
mountain, Galapagos Islands. And there's a coach that you see at first, and they kind of get you warmed up. And then there's music, and these balls, black or white, come floating at you, and you have to hit them in time to music. There's a music playlist, and you can choose different genres of music. There's a lot of hip hop, but there's also pop, rock, there's like one classical. I think there's
about 6 classical, because I only knew about one, and I found a whole bunch more.
Oh, good.
But some of them are at high, and I can't do high yet.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is there's low, medium, and high intensity, which really is about how fast they're coming at you. So you're hitting them. You have to move back and forth. There's a lot of movement, and it gets your heart rate up, and it's good exercise. And I've been enjoying it.
It's got squats in it, so you're exercising those muscles, and it's got lunges to the left and right, and you're reaching your arms up high to grab some of these targets that are going. And it's, as I say, a lot more exercise than I thought I was going to get out of it.
Totally. Father, have you tried any of the more exercise-oriented ones?
No, but you're kind of convincing me that I need to.
Hey, I can give you a free month.
You should totally do that. I would check it out. I mean, part of what sounds appealing to me is definitely like in the wintertime. That would be a great way to do something. But also, and I'm assuming, Pat, you might have more experience on these in these apps than I do, but I'm a huge lover of traveling. So, and it sounds like even in that app, you can go to some pretty cool places.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You're sitting in the top of the Great Wall of China, and you can look around at it as you're bouncing these things. And before and after the workout starts, you can just go, oh my goodness, I'm in the Switzerland, or I'm in the Galapagos, or I'm in Yosemite National Park, or yes, that's been amazing.
There's some beautiful
and you can
locations.
Hear the water. You can hear the water. You can see
perfect.
The birds. You can hear the breeze.
And that's I think one of the great appeals of the Oculus Quest, especially like this past year where all travel's been canceled, and like, this is just a way to see the world without leaving your living room, and not just see it on a TV screen. Again, it's immersive in a way that a TV screen can never be.
In line with that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about YouTube VR. So you can access YouTube from your Quest, your regular YouTube account. You can watch regular YouTube videos, but there are a lot of 360 YouTube videos. And I was in one where I was in China, I think it was, and kind of floating above this beautiful, I don't know, I didn't catch where it was. It was in the name was given, but I don't remember. It was in Chinese. But it was this beautiful location. There was another one that I saw that was over the Swiss Alps, and you just kind of floating over it like you're in a balloon, just
or a drone or something.
I mean, it's just amazing. And then there was National Geographic ones where swimming with sharks. I wasn't going to do the swimming with sharks, but my daughter dared me to, so I did. I regretted it because at one point the shark bites the camera, like
Yep.
I've seen Jaws, you haven't. I mean, this is the thing, but the flashbacks. But the YouTube VR is great. There's regular movies. There's concerts and all kinds of things in YouTube VR.
And along with the travel, there's a Wander application that uses Google Earth and Street View. And like last week, I went down my home street where I had grown. I've been in Tucson, and I went to the hospital where I worked, and I went to various places around town, and you kind of drive or teleport through this 360 environment that you can turn all the way around and see behind you and everything. And that's another one you can do with friends. That one you can do and have people join you and see the same things you're seeing. And so, there's tons of movies and VRs that are all travel based.
Right. In Wander, you can say, send me someplace random. And you just I ended up on a road, and I'm like, this just looks just like a road with plants on the side. I have no idea where I am, but you can bring up a map and you can see it, and you're like, oh, I'm in China, and it's just
you can see what's near you, and you can see lots of things. And and then they have clusters of destinations, kind of like a curated list of the Eiffel Tower or Vatican City or different things. And so you don't have to just randomly find yourself on a roadside, but you could also go to places that are well known.
Right. I went to Malta, and there was a beautiful basilica there in the capital, which I don't remember the name of it at the top of my head. Carolina Lindsay will kill me. They're Maltese. They live in Australia, but their family is Maltese, and so they'll kill me if I don't remember. But I don't remember. But it was a beautiful basilica to dedicate to Our Lady, and that's another great thing is you can go to all these. You can go on pilgrimage to the Holy Land. You can go to Rome and Assisi and all of these places that, even if you could afford it, if you're healthy enough to travel, we can't right now. And so this is a way to kind of go there and to feel like you're there.
Well, and to revisit places that I've been before, like I went to Venice, and I remember the place that our hotel was in Venice, and I could walk down that street and walk past it and go around the corner, and again, it's 360 all the way around you, and I just find that is so refreshing.
To quote Radar O'Reilly from MASH, Venice. I don't know. That's somebody out there got that one. Somebody got that one. Father Hedgie, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, I haven't done any of those kind of pilgrimage kind of VR experiences. The one that I did do, and this isn't an Oculus thing, but it was at there was a museum in DC that had a virtual VR tour of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Nice.
And for me, I'm assuming there's similar documentaries and apps in the Oculus that will do similar historical, and even perhaps religious kind of walkthroughs of places. But to go to a place like that I probably won't be able to, even if there was no COVID and even if I could travel, I'm not sure I'm ever going to end up going to Jerusalem. I would love to one day, but I don't know if I will. So to be able to have an experience like that in VR is a way, way awesome way to kind of be there without being there. On the flip side, I would encourage, as good as the VR experience is, nothing can beat an actual physical pilgrimage.
Of course.
Good point.
That's back when you can travel and everything is opened up and everything. But I would never want to portray that VR can replace the physical. But it is a really, really good kind of substitute or second best. Yeah. Or like I said, in places that I will probably never be able to actually go. Or like, to sit on the Great Wall of China and exercise. I'll probably never do that in real life. But, those kind of things are really cool to do through the Oculus.
And there are a lot of these videos that, as you say, are on YouTube also, and so you can go to your TV, and if you've got a YouTube app, and you can see a lot of these things. It's just that there's some of these experiences that are also 360 that you could then do on your Oculus. Not all of them are, but it just opens up a whole different way of viewing the world that, was cut off from me before.
Now, there's another type of experience that you mentioned, Pat, which is the social experience within the Oculus. And you and I and your son, Tim, we tried out a couple of these different virtual hanging out sort of places, like they're kind of chat room-ish. And I think the one we agreed was working the best for us was VTime XR.
Yeah, I like that one the best so far.
Yeah, it does require you to set up an account. All of them should use your Facebook account. If you're going to have a Facebook to have the Oculus, you should have just use your Facebook account. They don't, right? And you have to kind of set it up outside of the app. But it was really cool. Yeah, once we got it going, we sat on the beach together.
Yes, and we sat in the mountains on rocks in the middle of the Yosemite River or Merced River.
Yes. And
looked at El Capitan up behind us and saw mountain goats coming down to the river and things like that.
Fish in the water.
River. Yeah.
How do you talk to each other? Is it a text-based thing or is there a microphone?
No, you're hearing each other and you've made up an avatar. Now you have to, that's the prep part, is making an avatar that kind of looks like you. But and what was nice about that is the sound is stereo. So that as you're listening to somebody, if you change position, their voice changes. And even in a lot of the apps, I notice if I turn around, the voice follows to where the person is, not where I'm looking.
One of the nice things too about VTime XR is that the avatars, they move realistically they mimic the actual movements. The mouth moves in time with the voice. So
and the hands and the hands. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And after a while, it really does feel like you're you're talking to an actual person. That they're there. It's still cartoonish. It's the graphics are not quite yet there, but I could see someday that it really getting there. So that one worked really well. We tried. There's a couple others that we tried. I forget which they all were. There's one called Big Screen, which you can watch movies in a group. So if you want to watch a movie with other people, you kind of sit in a virtual theater together and you have virtual popcorn and make virtual jokes at the screen, I suppose. They're virtually funny.
Yeah, you can throw tomatoes at the screen, for instance,
nice.
Or popcorn, or you can have markers that you can write in different rooms. You can actually write in the air.
Okay.
But some of these are still clunky in terms of to get invitations. Now, I did find there was a shortcut in VTime XR that you could you could go to an Oculus button, and then you could connect with your Oculus friends.
Okay, that's a big thing. Is just connecting with your friends, because we were in VTime XR, and there was a guy who kept trying to join our chat, some stranger. It's like, no, we just
with X's in his name, which made me a little suspicious.
Yeah, nope, no thanks. We're fine. Yeah, we tried a couple others, and one of them we couldn't find each other. We couldn't I
found out why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically, a lot of these things, there are so many people playing them, they break off into separate little rooms, and you are in the place that looks the same, but it's a whole different set of people. If you leave and come back, you're not in the same room. But there is a way you can travel together and do it in a different way that you can come into the room together.
Oh, good. That's good.
But some of them are real clunky in terms of connection. Others will use the Facebook connection. If you're in a party, you can travel together. And I want to do more of that.
And some of them, there's a lot of kids, and so they can be that kind of kid, like kids. So kind of annoying, but yeah, that's what I was discovering. But there's a lot of there's a bunch of social ones. There's ones where you can play games together and that sort of thing. So that was nice. Speaking of games, so I kind of would like to just quickly move to talking about some of our favorite games or apps that we could do. I just want to mention quickly one that the Pat suggested is Sports Scramble. That's one you suggested to me that I've been having a lot of fun with, because it is also a lot of exercise, but it's fun, and it's sort of a crazy sports game where you're on a tennis court and you're playing tennis, but then your racket might turn into a big fish, or the ball will turn into a football. And it's surprisingly realistic. There's a bowling and baseball as well, and the kids love watching me do that one, because that's kind of
tennis. Tennis is good in there too. I actually worked up quite a sweat playing tennis against somebody. And you can play with random people, or you can play with friends.
Right. And the interesting thing is, or one thing to keep in mind is, when you set up your Quest in your room, you can set up a Guardian. We talked about whether it's stationary or room scale. If you do room scale, you set what's called a Guardian, where you create an outline in your room of safe space where you can move. And if you approach the edges of that, you'll see a barrier kind of, X's in the air of where you're approaching. Now, I don't have a room that has a lot of open space. I have room that's about just enough, but I have whacked my desk with my fist a couple of times bowling. So it's you got to be careful. But yeah. So
and even in Supernatural, I was able to use what they call the stationary, which gives you about a 3-foot circle around you.
Okay.
And that worked fine. I've done everything I wanted to in there. Now, some of the games really require more space. I think Vader says that they need 7 by 7 or something like that. Vader Immortal. And miniature golf doesn't work well in a very compact space. You need a little bit 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. It is fine. But the Guardian, I found a new option too today, which says you could set your Guardian to be pass-through, so that as you got close to it, you'd actually see your room outside of that.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to try that. I just turned it on, but didn't get close enough to the barrier when I was playing my workout earlier. So
we should mention pass-through. Pass-through is the Oculus Quest 2. I don't know if the Quest 1 has this, Father, has cameras on the outside. I don't know if the Quest 1 has that.
Yes, because I set up the Guardian the same way that you do, so I can see the whole room as I'm setting up the Guardian. So it's the same cameras.
So there's an option in the settings where it's in the experimental options where you can turn on pass-through, so that if you tap the side of the headset twice, it will turn on pass-through wherever you are in the Quest, so you can see your environment around you, which is really handy sometimes. If someone enters the room, you're like, "What? Who came in the room?" And you tap it, and you're like, "Stand back! I got the thing on." The kids. I've smacked a kid by accident because they tried to sneak by me. Well, don't. I'm can't see you anyway. So there's that. But so the pass-through is nice. There's also a new mode coming about a couch mode where you can outline your couch in the Guardian space, so that when you approach the couch, it will say you could sit here.
Right, because that's the thing I've been having to do is switch it to stationary mode when I want to go sit down and play a game. And this way, if you've got a couch mode, you can, as you get a little closer, you can see a little outline. They tell me. I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
In fact, I don't think they've rolled it out for everybody yet.
Okay, it's coming.
But at any rate, you should see a rectangle, and as you get closer, it actually shows you more of a couch, so you know where to sit. So that will be fun. I do suggest when the pass-through mode that you double tap on the side opposite of the power button.
I have turned my headset off so
yes,
many times.
I have too.
Oh my gosh, yes. I've accidentally, well, even when I'm adjusting it on my head, I've accidentally turned off the you set it to sleep essentially, and which is really annoying if you're in the middle of a workout. One thing to keep in mind, so I wear glasses, Pat, you wear glasses, Father, you don't, but they do have an adjustment, like something you can put in the headset that makes space for your glasses inside. But even then, I find it sometimes my glasses are pushed up against my eyes, and I have to kind of reach in and grab the stems of the glasses and kind of push it forward a little bit. I think that makes it more comfortable.
I haven't had that. Huh.
I think I have a big head, so that's probably part of it.
Okay.
But any other tips we want to, before we move on to our headlines, any other tips we want to
did you want to talk about any other of the games that we mentioned?
Before we get to the games, though, I do have a tip that I find helpful, because I'm of the millennial age that I like to share what I'm doing with people. So just like the Apple TV, stream into the Apple TV, that's a great thing to do. But I always like to take screenshots. So like when I'm looking up at Vader imposing himself over me, I can take a picture. And the normal way to do it is you have to like push the Oculus Home button and go back to the settings, and then the share button, and then click take a screenshot, and then it transfers you back to the app, and then there's like a little countdown. So it's really cumbersome. But there is a shortcut that if you push and hold the Oculus Home button and then immediately push the right trigger, then it will automatically then just take a snapshot without leaving the app.
Awesome.
And then the only downfall that I found with that is that the only way that I can share the photos is by posting it to Facebook. They don't really have an option. And maybe, Pat, you look like you might have a solution for me. But so I've shared them to Facebook, saved the photo, and then just deleted the post.
Well, the other thing is you can post it with just yourself as the audience.
Oh, sure.
And that's what I've been doing. So I've got them in Facebook, but nobody else can see them.
Yep. But I wish there was a way that would be like, just export all these photos to my phone, or, but they don't. So it's really tied to Facebook, but you can still get them.
Yeah, they should put it in the Oculus app on your phone. I
would like that, yes.
Yeah. Make a suggestion.
But
actually, the videos do. The videos from Supernatural, they are saved on my phone.
You can save, like you can take a video of the workout?
Exercise, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And it's saved on in the Oculus app. I can go look at it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Awesome. All right, so I did forget to give you guys a chance to pick a game that you enjoy. Father, why don't you tell me your Star Wars game or Doctor Who game that you enjoy?
you named them. Star Wars Vader Immortal, of course, is probably my top favorite. And it's not a game so much as it is a story that you play through. So you actually can't be, quote unquote, killed in game or anything, but you do get to use a lightsaber. You get to use the Force. You get to battle Darth Vader. Spoiler alert.
Wow.
So really a lot of fun. But the next one would be the newer one, Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge. And that's the one that I was actually just playing with today. And that one is a legitimate game. You can be killed and you have to go back to a kind of a save point. So I've been fighting off pirates, and they are very
implacable.
They are not as inept as stormtroopers in shooting me. We'll put it that way. And then my third favorite would be the Doctor Who Edge of Time. And Dom, you've heard me talk about this before, but you get to face off against the Daleks, which are not as scary as you'd think, but you also face off against the Weeping Angels, which are absolutely terrifying.
Nope.
So much so that I had to pull the Oculus Quest off my head the first time that I like turned around and they were right there in my face, and it just because you can there's one point where you see them coming down a corridor at you, and you have to keep your eyes on two different corridors So that's how they kind of get you to look away from one of the corridors. And then the lights are flashing. So you see them far away and they're slowly coming to you and you're trying to fix the elevator. And if you don't fix the elevator in time, they get to you.
Oh, man.
So you have to like keep looking back to prevent them from coming at you. And
yeah. If you don't know Dr. Eddie, the Weeping Angels are really scary.
They're creepy.
They're like the scariest monsters.
I couldn't get beyond the control room with the puzzles that the doctor sent for me, though. I've got to go find a YouTube video to how to get around him, because I spent 30 minutes or an hour on trying to get through that room. I never could.
A little bit of it is a bit clunky, and it took me a little bit too. And I think I figured it out. But yeah, there was one puzzle that I just kind of, I was stumped for a while until I realized I had to like look at the back of a picture, and there was the solution.
Okay.
Keep working at it.
All right. Well, because I was about ready to delete the game because I couldn't do it.
All right, Pat, do you have anything you wanted to mention as a suggestion for folks?
I've enjoyed Sports Scramble. I want to do miniature golf. There's one walkabout miniature golf that I've done on my own, and then you can play with a random player as well. And most of these things have a safeguard that you can turn your microphone off if you don't want to talk to somebody, or you can push a button and get out of there if you feel like somebody's getting too intrusive. But I've played with a couple of people and just visited, and they can, oh, nice shot. Oh, I like that one. Oh, yeah, this next hole's really going to be hard. Just kind of that general feeling of companionship without somebody being intrusive. But the miniature golf is not just a straight miniature golf. They've got lots of different scenarios, like a Gothic castle or a desert Western theme, and various different places. So you can play 9 holes or 18 holes or, all sorts of different things.
Okay.
And that's when you can play with up to 6 friends of yours. Okay. In a private party.
One thing to point out is there are a lot of free apps. So you could like, I forget if Sports Scramble is free, but like there's a lot of,
it's not.
Yeah, I think that it was a few bucks, but there's a lot of free apps out there which you could have a lot of fun with. This YouTube is free. I think Wander was free. There's a bunch of the games that are free. The better ones are of course going to cost some money and that, but I look at it as, like Vader, or more like you're saying, it's an interactive story. It's like being in a movie. I'm willing to pay $10 for that experience, of being in a movie, a Star Wars movie. So, but it's not everything like an additional cost every time, but there are things that cost.
The other one that I have to mention is I have been a Myst fan for decades, and I have played Myst on, I think, almost any device that could play it.
Yep.
And I got Myst for the Oculus the day it came out. And it is awesome. You are actually surrounded in the island.
Nice.
You're walking through the island, and you can climb on things, and you can reach out and touch them with a haptic touch sensation. You feel like there's something there. And it's just amazing.
It's so funny that, because when I first played Myst, and I don't know if it was an Apple II that Myst was on, but
I had mine on the Apple II first,
okay.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think it was running in HyperCard, and it was like single screens that rendered, and they did all kinds of tricks. There's actually a great documentary about how they made the thing. But that felt like the first real VR, quote unquote, experience, 35 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was, maybe not that long, 35 years ago. But it felt immersive. Myst itself was immersive. So to be able to go back, I mean, maybe it's just a nostalgia thing, but to be able to go back and really be immersed in that world would be really awesome. So I do want to try that out.
The only negative part is Myst does have some puzzles that sometimes when you're playing on a computer, you can write these hints down and you can write some diagrams down. My brother-in-law said, use your phone and put it on voice activated and dictate it to Siri, if nothing else.
That's a good point.
And I thought, I guess I could do that. Siri, write down such and such, and then I could come back and listen to it later.
Right. Yeah. You could say, "S lady, take a note." I think is the would be. Yeah. That is actually a good idea. That's a good, because there are certain apps that require you to, like, you have to send a code to someone else to have them join you in a chat room, and it's like a 16-digit. Like, what am I supposed to do with a 16-digit code that I'm seeing and I don't have any way to write it down? Like, but that's a good tip, is to use voice control, whether it's Google or Siri or something, to take a note, and that would be good. Excellent. All right, we're going to have a ton of links in the show notes. So there's all kinds of other things, links to best games, tips like how to view all your purchased apps, etc., etc. So we'll have a bunch of links in the show notes for that. And if you have questions, let us know. We'll be happy to answer them for you in a future episode. And let us know if you want to hear us talk about anything else related to this. We really do. We enjoy talking about it, I guess. So before we move on to our headlines, let's take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Frank R., Michelle D., Mary Jean C., Leslie K., and Toby T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. Now's a great time to become a StarQuest patron, thanks to a generous gift from a StarQuest supporter when you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give. The first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor to support all our shows, including this one, which makes your gift go even further. And we're more than halfway to our goal of $2,000 in new monthly pledges. So won't you help us close the gap? If you've been thinking of becoming a StarQuest patron, now is the time. Visit sqpn.com/give today. So our headlines. Pat, this first headline, I think, strikes close to home for you. If everyone else remembers, Texas went through let's just say the winter that belongs in Wyoming and Massachusetts got out of our yards and wandered south into Texas over the past couple of weeks. And you guys had a really bad situation where you actually lost power for like 3 days, didn't it? Right?
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah, luckily ours was 2 days we lost power. We got power back on Wednesday, had it so we could have a nice dinner on Wednesday, and then we lost it again for Thursday and part of Friday. So, but we didn't lose water. One of my kids lost water as well, and had to take snow and fill up the bathtub and melt it and filter it for drinking water and potty water. It was nasty.
Wow. The headline is who's actually to blame for the Texas power disaster. And there's an interesting story, and I'll share the link in the show notes, about how it was a kind of specific, well, if you excuse the expression, perfect storm of situations that really caused the blackouts, because the way the Texas power grid is set up, and it's sort of separate from, there's basically 3 major power grids in the United States: Western, Eastern, and Texas. That's a little simplification, but that's sort of how it worked. And then there was the power stations themselves were not insulated against the cold, so that you had pumps and other circuits and other things freezing up, and that's what shut them down. And the head of the power grid company, called ERCOT, he actually was in the news saying that they were moments away from a situation that would have caused power outages for months, not just days. So that may be a convenient excuse to deflect blame and say, we saved you guys, we didn't. But it's one of the things that kind of strikes me is when you strip away things like modern conveniences and well, not even just conveniences, modern utilities like power, which takes away a lot of our technology. It really does make you appreciate what we are dependent on these days for around us, and how fragile our society, our civilization can be in some ways. What do y'all think?
There are books written like that about, what happens when you have a post-apocalyptic, whether it's, caused by whatever, but the infrastructure goes down, we're in trouble.
Right. Yeah. Although interesting, I heard a lot of stories about people helping people. There was a lot of that.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of that. It was amazing how much people stepped up, checking on their neighbors, offering to put an electrical cord out so people could come charge their phones. Come bring buckets, we'll give you water. I mean, this was all over the place.
I heard your son Tim. He threw he had power, so he threw a power extension electrical cord over the fence to the neighbor so that he could run some things. So yes, that does sound really.
Charge up phones was the biggest thing people needed.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing is like, the technology we did have, which was phones that could, as long as you had power, most people still had cell service. Although I think I heard at times some people did lose that, but it kept people in touch. So we were able to communicate with you even though you didn't have power, which was good.
I was just going to say that I wish more of those stories pop up in the news of the people helping people, because I get so tired of the blame game and the politics behind it, and you lose the humanity in it. So I mean, nobody wanted Texas to be hit by this, and so I just. Yeah, I like to get back to the good in people.
There was in the very beginning a lot of people that were from the north that were making fun of, those Texans are, they don't know what to do with snow. And then pretty soon it turned into, I realize this is major. This is not just an inconvenience. This is life-threatening.
Right. For people up north, when you get 6 inches of snow, you shovel it and you go on. But it's like I said to someone, okay, now take away your shovel because you don't have snow shovels there. Take away the plows. Take away the power. It's a whole different ball game. The alternative would be, how about if you get a nice tornado run through your neighborhood? How would you deal with that? It's different. It's very different. All right. Our next headline is an interesting one, and it kind of developed over the past week. I put the headline in the show rundown, and things have changed over time. So Australia's been preparing to pass this law. I don't know what the status of the law is at this exact moment, but they were passing a law that would require online providers like Facebook and Google to pay news organizations when links to their stories show up on their site. So if someone linked to an Australian newspaper article on Facebook would have to pay some amount of money to that Australian website, that Australian newspaper. And Facebook sort of jumped the gun on the law. The law wasn't in effect, but they kind of instituted this ban on all Australian news sites. Basically, you wouldn't be able to post a link. They shut down the pages for them. And then they kind of really overstepped in anything that was based in Australia and that said news at all. So the pages of health authorities that were posting COVID news, or Bureau of Meteorology, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology posting weather news, all got shut down. Typical Facebook overreach. The algorithm went crazy, and then they've reversed themselves. They've dialed it back. Some people thought it was Facebook was doing this as a see, this is what's coming if you do this to us. Other people said no, and it's just Facebook being Facebook and being dumb about things again.
The algorithm's not being correctly looked at. Yeah.
Well, what is your reaction to this idea of making Facebook or Google or whatever pay journalism sites to link to their content? Good idea? Bad idea? What do you think?
I'm inherently against it, and I'm not sure I could even articulate why. One of the bigger issues though that I see with it, regardless of the tax, is one of the things that some of these articles were pointing out is that we as a culture, as a people, just rely too much on Facebook for news. And so I'm very skeptical of that because of all the fake news out there and all the ways that, Facebook can even promote their own biases and what they're allowed or what they're showing. So I think in general it's better to just go to the actual news site to get the news anyway.
Right.
Now, whether or not they should tax, I don't know if I can fully articulate kind of my resistance to it, but it seems wrong.
Well, the other thing is that there's Google News, Yahoo News, all these other places. That's what they basically do, is link to other sites. They are not news sites themselves. They provide, a curated view, or with Google, less curation, but of what news is out there. And so if they were to be taxed too, then you'd have to only go to the Washington Post or only go to the New York Times. And then you start getting this very narrow view of what news is.
And that's the plan would be that every Yahoo News, Google News, all of them would have to pay this tax.
That's right.
And I think I think for what you're trying to articulate, Father, if I may, and you can tell me whether I'm off base or not, but I think the problem with this law would be these journalism sites do benefit from being linked. Like as soon as Facebook turned off the spigot, all of these sites saw their traffic drop. And maybe it is because we're too dependent on Facebook, but part of it is to kind of turn it on a positive note, we depend on our friends to alert us to interesting stories and interesting news. And maybe that's a good thing in some ways, rather than just whatever the editor of our local paper decides to show us, which is the way it used to be, which, you got your local paper and that told you what the news was, or you watched the evening news and they told you what the news was. Today you can read the news from thousands of different perspectives. But, if we start, taxing this, in fact, I saw one of these sites that I was actually linking to prepare for the show was an Australian news site, and they had this big banner pop up when you go to their site. Please download our app to your phone so you can still get our news because you can't get it on Facebook anymore. It's like, yeah, you think? I get the concern, which is if people go to Google and all they read is the blurb that the excerpt Google puts there, Google News, and they don't click through, well, then that doesn't benefit the news site that did the work of posting it or, of reporting it. On the other hand, my solution is someone needs to come up with a micropayment system where if I go to visit a site, I can choose to pay 0.03 cents to read a story and make it seamless, make it easy to do, and you can earn money just from people visiting your site and looking at the stories without having to put up paywalls and all this other nonsense. But that's my point of view anyway.
I guess what I like about going to Google News is, though, there's usually 2 or 3 stories about a topic right together, and they're not all from one bias. It may be Washington Post and Fox News and something else that have different backgrounds. And then if you click through, you can see, like about 100 articles all on the same topic, and you can pick in which see all sorts of sides. So to me, I like the ability to look at it from more than one point of view.
Right. I agree.
And if you've got it all locked down, you can't. You're stuck with whatever you can afford to pay for, whatever subscription is out there that you can choose.
Right. That's right. Okay, so the bottom line now is that Facebook has reversed this, and we'll see what happens with this law if what happened changes the minds of any of the legislators who might have been voting on it. And then I think we should do it for our headlines this time. But I want to move on quickly to our picks of the week at this point. And Father, I'll let you go first. What's your pick this week?
Yeah, so my pick this week is a communication service called Flocknote. And so this is something that I've discovered as a new pastor, as I've been trying to figure out the best way to communicate better to my parishioners and even to volunteers and to the staff. And, especially during this crazy time of COVID where, like, if the bulletin is the only main source of communication that I have going out, and we have all these people who aren't coming to church because of COVID or for whatever reason, and they're not getting the bulletin, then they're missing out on pretty much everything that's going on in the parish. So Flocknote was something that I found through a priest friend of mine, and it is basically a service that it is completely free for up to 40 members. So, I mean, as a pastor or a parish administrator, you can try it completely free, no credit card required, for up to 40 members. And it's a way that you can send out text messages, emails. You can set up different groups. So I've got like a group for my staff. I've got a group for the entire parish. I've got a group for volunteers. I've got a group for those who want to be informed on liturgy announcements. And you could do it for just about youth group, confirmation, et cetera. You can have all these different groups. And so you can compose a text message, and it will send out text messages to the group for whatever announcements you have. What I've used it recently for is also creating like almost an email newsletter. So going into Ash Wednesday, I typed up the whole thing about giving an overview of there was a translation change that was going to happen to the collect at Mass, that opening prayer. The word one was going to drop from the collect, and so I was able to explain why that was happening, and then also the distributing ashes over the tops of people's heads versus tracing on their forehead. And so I was able to write it up in a nice way and send that out as an email newsletter to everyone in the parish, or everyone who's signed up, not necessarily everyone in the parish. But I've heard back from people and they really appreciated that. And it's a great way to reach people outside of the bulletin and outside of
webpage.
Yeah, the website. And one of the things that Flocknote really kind of makes a point of is, like, I forget the statistic, but it's like 90% of people will open a text message, versus seeing the bulletin or even an opening in email. So to get out information quick and effectively to people, especially in this day and age, a text message or an email is more likely going to get seen than perhaps the bulletin, depending on who you are. So, yeah, it's a great way that I found to. The challenge that I'm having is getting people to sign up. I'm in a bit of an older parish, so there's some people who are not necessarily wanting to do that, and that's fine. But it's, free for them, and then for us, there's a small monthly fee that kind of gets tacked on once you breach 40 people.
So one thing I want to suggest in relation to Flocknote, because it's a great idea, SQPN is a longtime friends with the folks at Flocknote, and they have a part of their service called the library, and it has a bunch of pre-made email templates, a bunch of contents and lessons that you can pick up. So SQPN has a library there from our podcast, American Catholic History, and these are brief written excerpts about the people that are profiled in American Catholic history, and any parish can come in and they can just say, send this one, or they can edit it, or they could just say, send this one to my parish, to my list, and everyone will get it. And it's a nice way to get some interesting educational, formational content out to people without having to do a lot of work on your end. So if your parish uses Flocknote, be sure to suggest it to your pastor or whoever is running the Flocknote for the parish to check that out. And we're always adding new ones. I mean, we've got 25, a couple dozen at least so far in there in the library. So check it out. And we're going to be adding Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World. So we'll have excerpts from that as well. We're trying to get that out to as many people. So yeah, Flocknote, great pick. Thank you. Pat, what's your pick this week?
Well, I had 5 chargers during this time of our outages. And so I was able to keep our phones going and my Kindle going and stuff. But after this all was over, I decided that the 5 little chargers I had, I needed something larger that was going to last me in more than just 2 days before we got a recharge on them. So there's several out there. And I just referenced it, that'll be in the show notes, that will charge a phone up like 6 or 8 times, or an iPad, or charge your MacBook. During that time, all I depended upon was my phone and the Kindle and a little bit on the iPad. And so just being able to keep those charged up over a period of 5 days, I just needed something a little bit more powerful. So that was my thought. Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned the Anchor Powerhouse, which is a big battery one.
Well, this one that I mentioned is the Powerhouse 100, which is not that huge one.
Oh, okay.
It's actually not. I bought it and I found out on the website it's not actually being sold anymore.
Oh, okay.
They've gone to the 200 and 300, the great big ones. But this is probably about 7 by 8. And about an inch thick. So it's a heavy brick, but it's not the big ones like the other ones. And I was looking for something that do with USB 3, as well as USB-C. And so the 2 that I've mentioned that can go in the show notes will do both.
Okay. So Anchor has a lot of ones from the very small to the very big, like the ones that will last for days and you could run a mini fridge off of it. And it's actually really nice if you rely on any kind of medical equipment. like I suppose if you get oxygen, that comes with they usually provide generators. But if you like use a the mask for when you have the CPAP machine for like sleeping, like something like the bigger powerhouse chargers,
that would help it keep going.
Keep it going for a long time. So that's a good idea too. I love the idea of having a big battery for when things go out for an extended period. All right, great. So my pick is an app and service called Truebill. So truebill.com. So it's a service with an app for Android and iOS, and what they do is you have to trust them, and they've been trustworthy. I've checked them out, and they've gotten a lot of endorsements from various places. But what they do is you give them access to your financial accounts. So that's where the trust comes in, and they analyze it, and they can help you figure out a budget and to show you where you're spending your money, help you categorize things. But one of the things they really do is that I found really interesting is they can help you lower your bills. So for any of the subscriptions that you have, and what they do is they look at it and they say, oh, you've got a phone bill, you got AT&T, you've got a cable bill, you've got a newspaper bill. Hey, if you want, we'll negotiate a lower rate for you. And if we get the lower rate, we'll take half of the first year's savings on that, and you get the other half. So you're not out anything. In fact, you definitely are ahead. If we don't get the lower rate, you don't pay anything. It's for free. And so I said, well, why not? So they contacted AT&T. That's where we have our cell phones through. I saved $250 a year on that, and
wow. And
then they renegotiated my newspaper bill. I saved $8 a month on that. So they're still working on another one. The cable bill, I think, they're a little harder. I was able to tell them, don't change my service. I don't want lesser service. I don't want you to give me a lower. I want to, when you negotiate, and that's what they did. They were able to negotiate somehow, pay less for the same service. So that was good. Couple things to keep in mind is when you sign up, you will sign up in a trial account. They have an extended premium service for $36 a year, which gives you some extra things, which I didn't need, but I didn't notice I was signing up for it and ended up paying the $36. So that's on me. I wasn't paying attention. But one other caveat is when they get the savings and they're going to charge you the half. So I got, the $250 off my phone bill for the year. But they charge you up front for their half of the savings. So I was out over $100 up front. So I'll get that back in my savings over the next, 6 months, but just something to be aware of. Okay. So if something happens to your service between now and then, you could be out, that sort of thing. If like you cancel your phone or what have you. So something to keep in mind, and you are fronting the money. But so far this app has saved me money, or at least theoretically. It's so even with the $36 I paid, but I didn't have to, I'm still ahead. So just something to check out. At least look at it. It may be something that's worthwhile for you. All right. I think that should do it. That's our discussion. Let us know if you have any feedback on anything we've talked about today by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, I should know this, your favorite podcast app, or at the SQPN YouTube channel, where you should make sure you hit the bell to get notifications. Until next time, Father Andrew Kinstetter, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
You're absolutely welcome.
Pat Scott, thank you as well.
Always glad to be here. Thank you.
And thank you, Janet and Dawn, for joining us as well. And once again, I'm Don Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.